Hi, welcome to this video on continuing our game manager implementation. If you have gone through the structure, you might have figured out that our game manager is well designed for the UI that we have. But if we need to add pause game and resume game, we need to modify the structure. Now, I will not be going through pause and resume. I will let you guys implement it on your own once the course is over. So now coming back to our start game method, this method is used to start the timer, reset, and assign all the default values. Why reset? This is because if the user is playing the game again, the score map will have the old values and the time remaining would have gone back to 0. So before we start a new game, we need to reset all these values. So the first thing that we do is we assign the time remaining, which is in seconds, and we will give 5 seconds for both the players. So the total time remaining will be 10. We will start with the left thumb. So we will assign the current player as player.left. Now we assign the timer class. So this is just initialization. We are not starting it yet. So for those from Java, countdown timer is an abstract class, which means it doesn't have a concrete implementation, and anybody who is writing it has to add some implementation. So in Kotlin, this is how we define and write an anonymous class. So we use the object keyword and then the name of the class. So what it expects are two parameters, but in milliseconds. So the first thing is millis in future. It means like till what time in future is this timer going to run. And next is the countdown interval, which means at what interval do we need a callback. So inside that we need to implement two methods, on tick and on finish. Now on tick method is called at every countdown interval and on finish is called at the end. So in our case we don't really need on finish. So let us just write the implementation for on tick. So here we need to convert these milliseconds into seconds for us because all our coding is in seconds and not milliseconds. So we will divide our millis until finished by 1000 to get the integer, and we'll then do an explicit conversion to int just to be safe. Because if you remember, Kotlin and Java, they will convert it to the bigger format, which in this case will be long. Okay, so yesterday, while assigning our memory variables, we forgot the most important one, which is the callback. So we will have the game manager callback, which will also be an optional value. This will actually help us send events back to the UI to tell that something has changed. Now, once time left has changed, we need to tell the UI the time left has changed, which in this case would be time left. And then we'll call our internal method to process the same time. So our timer is done. Next thing we need to do is reset the scores. So we will put in the score map where the left is equal to 0. Same for the right player. So some error is coming. Let's just check it. Okay, this is because we have defined our score map as a map and not hash map. Okay, so empty map will also return a map, so we just have to change it to hash map with the default constructor. So we've reset the score. I'm just giving meaningful comments so that if somebody is reading the code, they can easily follow. So now we need to inform the UI. So we will be doing callback dot set player dot left. Okay, anything else is left? Code changed. Yeah, need to tell the UI to reset the score. Just duplicate this line. And then finally, start the time. So now our first method is done, start game. So let us just revise what we have done. So we have reset time remaining to 10, 5 seconds per player. We have set the starting player to left. We have initialized our timer. We have passed the same 10 seconds into milliseconds, and our interval is 1000, which is every second. Then we have reset the score, and then we have informed the UI to reset everything. And then finally, we have started the timer. So now we need to write the code for the next method, which is the click received. This will handle the clicks when the user presses left thumb or right thumb button. So here we actually need to check whether the user is pressing the correct thumb button or not. So if it is the turn of the left thumb, we should not allow the right thumb to be pressed, and vice versa. So the first thing that we write is a check current player equal to player. If the correct thumb has been pressed, then we will update the score. So because the hash map might not contain the player, we need to do a null check here, and then we need to update the value by 1. Because everything is nullable, there will be a lot of code here, so please don't get scared. So we are telling if the score map player is not null, do a plus operation by 1, and otherwise return the default value, which is 1. So if this core map did not contain a value for left or right player, we will take the first value as 1. Once this is done, we need to tell the UI to update their score. So we will call player left score map of player. If you're wondering what is this question mark colon, this is called the Elvis operator. So if the left side of this Elvis operator is null, then it returns the right value. So in our case, if on line number 51, if score map doesn't contain the player value, which can happen, so it will ask you, it will always treat this value as nullable. So we will pass a default value, which is 0. So let us duplicate it with the right, and there is a bug here. We should be using player.left, and here player.right. Last method is process event method, where we process ticks for every second. This is used to update the UI and the game data. We will also decide whether the game has ended and to show the winner. So the first thing we check is whether it is time to switch the play. So for now, if time left is less than equal to 5, and time left is greater than 0, then we will reset our current player as player.write, and we will also tell the UI that the player has changed. Next thing, we check if the game is over. So if time left is equal to, or we can just write less than 1, then let us first get the score. So we can just copy this. So we have left and right. If you remember, we also have a tie scenario. So first let us check for left. So if the left player score is greater than the right player score, we will tell the UI that the left player has won. So this array of is a utility method which will just get an array from the element or the object that we are passing. Now else if right score is greater than left score, then we will tell the UI that the right player has won. Else we will tell the UI that it's a tie. In that case, we need to pass both the right and the left player. So it's a very simple implementation. This happened because we have broken down our scenarios into a well-defined structure. So I want to repeat here that if you want your code to remain simple and readable, please put a lot of thought into it. Don't jump into coding and copy pasting stuff from Stack Overflow. A working code is never the same as maintainable code. So please take a lot of time and go through what you are going to write. So let's break the video here, and in the next video we will connect our activity with this game manager and finally see the game in action. See you there.